Hey, this is Benjamin Boyce. We're going to go back to exposéing Evergreen.
Burning bridges, one by one. What I'm doing can't be undone. And I'm always hoping someday I'm gonna stop this running round. But every time the chance comes up, another bridge goes down.
Last night, Jennifer Drake, who is the current academic provost, which is the person who is below the president but above the deans, and the deans are above the teachers, though Evergreen's weird, so the teachers are supposed to have like the final say on everything, but over the course of time, the faculty, the teachers that is, their power has been decreased and decreased and decreased and decreased and decreased, and now they have this noose around them that George Bridges has woven out of multiple vice presidents and so on and so forth. But Jennifer Drake, who to everything I've heard is actually a wonderful person, she sent out this email to the all staff and faculty. And I'm going to read this. This is very inside baseball and stuff, but the juicy bit happens a little bit later. So just bear with me. This is from Jen. Hi all. The deans, Chastity, who is the current provost of equity and inclusion, or vice president of equity and inclusion, who's on the same level as Jennifer Drake now. So George Bridges has attached this equity and diversity thing to the provost, which goes to say that it is one of the controlling factors for everything that Evergreen is supposedly going to do if they survive this. So the deans, Chastity, and I deeply appreciate the level of participation at yesterday's faculty meeting, both in terms of attendance and the thoughtful ways you engaged with the challenging information we presented. For those of you who were not there, we are writing to provide an overview of the information shared and where you can get additional information should you have questions. The meeting was focused on a decline in student enrollment and its impact on faculty positions and the 2018-2019 curriculum. We also provided information on the college's enrollment turnaround initiatives. Specifically, we shared the following. Total college enrollment for 2018-2019 is currently projected at an annual average full-time enrollment of 3,111, which is approximately a 20% drop in enrollment. Ouch. This loss of 500 to 600 students equals a loss of approximately 24 adjunct faculty full-time employment or full-time enrollment. We will avoid layoffs of regular faculty in making these cuts. Impacted adjunct faculty are currently being contacted. Part-time regular faculty will be held to contracted hours of teaching. Regular faculty will be encouraged to teach particular courses and programs in areas of need. Deans will talk with faculty regarding needed curricular revisions by March 16 to complete catalog revisions in time for student registration this May. So, huge drop in enrollment and a lot of the budget of Evergreen. Some of it's derived from the state, but most of the operating budget, I believe, I don't have the graph, the chart, the pie to show you, but I believe that a lot of the money comes from student enrollment, at least faculty salaries. We are engaged in a multi-year strategic plan for stabilization and growth that includes a comprehensive retention plan, the first-year experience project, the curricular pathways project, the review and selection of enrollment recovery project ideas, the new curricular offerings such as COSA/IDS graduate program, our equity and inclusion work, improvements to marketing using the new brand story, not to be confused with the brand new story. No, this is the new brand story, which is the same old story with a new bag around it. Revisions of admissions processes, expanded fundraising. Good luck with that. They email me at least once a week asking for money. We shared an appreciation for the ways faculty and staff are already engaged in meeting student needs and asked for assistance in offering a student-centered curriculum, retaining students within academic programs as well as college-wide. The senior leadership team will notify the campus community of the remaining budget reduction impacts and process in the near future. Finally, we are committed to engaging in this work for our common ground that keeps in mind the 5 foci and 6 expectations, which are like the articles of faith at Evergreen. Our various approaches to social justice work, that can't have anything to do with the enrollment drop, can it? Our commitment to public liberal arts and sciences education. Now, if they put that first, which they don't, if you put the liberal arts and sciences ahead of the social justice work, perhaps that would be the way forward to attracting people that will give you money to go there. Instead of people that want to become activists, you'll tap into that whole market of people who want to do something useful with their lives. And our commitment to team teaching and interdisciplinary learning communities. Faculty with questions about the impact, yada, 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 yada. Okay, so that's just the internal email. So Jen sent that out to all the staff and faculty. And then George Bridges sent this to her, not realizing that he himself sent this reply to all the staff and faculty. Now listen to this. Sent last night at 8:51 p.m., which is February 15th, which is the day after Valentine's Day. Jen, good conversation tonight. We made progress in my mind. In reading through this message, I wonder whether you ran its content by Zach Powers before sending. Now, why would the academic provost need to run something through Zach Powers, which is the marketing department? So why would the marketing department have any power over the academic provost? If not, given the sensitivity of some of the language, listen to this, losses of students instead of projected losses, losses of faculty position instead of possible budget reductions, might end up appearing elsewhere in ways that will be used against us. Against you how, George? Let's go through that again. Remember Orwell? If not, given the sensitivity of some of the language, losses of students instead of projected losses, losses of faculty position instead of possible budget reductions, they're not projected losses, they're actually going to be losses. And they're not just possible budget reductions, there are certain definite budget reductions. So they want to act one way but say another thing. What did Orwell say? In times of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act, which is kind of silly that this is the social justice university. And what's the one thing that's revolutionary within the university of social justice? It's actually the truth. George Bridges has Zach Powers there, marketing department guy, bending the truth of everything or covering over the truth of everything in order to protect him against people who will use it against him. He uses the word us, but that means him and his position. What does that say about his critics? Or what does that say about his mindset towards people who are criticizing him? That they're enemies, right? That they're out to get him. To continue, while I realize that the scope of our challenge is becoming known, I would have preferred that such detail not gone out in an email without review. If it was reviewed, then my concern is not with the message, but the reviewer and review process. Please let me know. Thanks, George. George S. Bridges, president, the Evergreen State College. Current president. Let's stress that. Current president of the Evergreen State College. So apparently the provost is in a position where she cannot be honest, where she has to send everything through a review. If this is not 1984, if this does not show you the outcome of the whole mindset, that this is again. So we had this big cultural revolution at Evergreen, right?
Shamir could just wait, he asked you what you could do to protect students, and you were ready. No, you sat here and you disregarded that. All of us came here and took a risk to come here and be in this room with the way everybody's acting on campus, but you were ready to adjourn it for one white professor. Right?
We had this inept reaction.
The choice I made was strategic. I was very concerned, particularly when they were surrounding me and surrounding our administrators and in my office, that if law enforcement were to come in, that there would be perhaps violence, perhaps damage to property, damage to the students. I felt perfectly safe in that environment. I feel perfectly safe with college students. I didn't like the way they spoke with me, sir, but I felt safe.
Could you have left? Could you have left?
I believe I could have, yes, sir.
All right?
And then they start to do all these lectures that are against free speech, that are against the U.S. government. I'm waiting on that video, but there's talk about somebody who was really, really against the U.S. government. So against that democratic Enlightenment values, against democratic free speech values, you have this alternate set of values that dresses itself up as equity, as fairness, as justice. But then when you look at how it's implemented, it's all about twisting the truth. It's all about suppressing speech. There's a very definite pattern that is analogous to other institutions historically that have gone down this road. Now, George then catches his mistake, right? So apparently he didn't review his own email. There was something amiss in that review process. I do know for a fact that any public statement that George Bridges gives, it has to go through no less than two attorney generals. Two attorney generals need to sign off on anything that George puts out there publicly. So even he is a lapdog. So maybe the buck does not stop with him. One thing that I've wondered since this whole thing started happening, and I started covering it 8 months ago and being in contact with various teachers, Weinstein, Heng, and a bunch of other people that I won't mention. But the one thing that I keep on asking myself and others is George Bridges Charlie Brown or is he Machiavelli? Is he Charlie Brown or is he Machiavelli? Because he looks like Charlie Brown, but everything that happens, like maybe he does have a master plan, but who knows? So after he catches himself, he sends out this. Colleagues, I apologize for sending this to all. This was intended to go to Jen alone. These are difficult times and we remain subject to the scrutiny of many who may not have the best interests of the college in mind. Well, here's one thing for you, George. Maybe some of us are scrutinizing your behavior because we do have the best interests of the college in mind. And you're totally messing up a very unique college. That's so unique that it already has a hard enough time billing itself to the proper student, and you're completely screwing it up, turning it into something that it's not. Under what circumstances do you construe all criticism as somehow being against you? Maybe you are the one who needs to be removed. Maybe you are your worst enemy. Maybe it's not all us scrutinizers. Maybe it's you. And the 20% that's Machiavelli keeps on screwing with the 80% that's Charlie Brown.
This time I'm gonna kick that football clear to the moon!
Burning bridges, one by one.
We face many challenges, and I do want members of our community to be fully informed about them. And it trails off. It doesn't say anything. Thanks for your ongoing engagement in this work. I will try _desperately not to send email messages after a tiring day. So sorry, George Bridges. So that is that. So hopefully something comes of this. Hopefully this is another nail in that coffin of George Bridges. George, I will sanction whoever doesn't go along with my equity agenda Bridges.
I don't mean to put my hands up to silence you. That's not my purpose. It's a sign of my utter frustration at the challenges that we have in every organization. There are going to be a handful of people who are just going to tell us all, fuck off. Mm-hmm. Please don't put that down in the video. I may get fired for that. They're going to say some things that we don't like, and our job is to bring them on. Mm-hmm. Or get them out. Right. And what I hear us stating that we are working toward is bring them in, train them, and if they don't get it, sanction. Right.
After the State of the College address, there was distributed in the physical mailboxes of the faculty a piece of paper that states, "Let's move Evergreen forward," which is a play on the Moving Evergreen Forward lecture series, which is all about regressing it into a barbaric, tribalistic state, but that's just my interpretation. Let's move Evergreen forward. 2 pictures of George Bridges, one from the Chronicle of Higher Education, which is actually a great magazine if you can get through the paywall, and then another Xeroxed photo of George Bridges from, I believe, his meeting with the Seattle Times back in June. And one says, George, quote unquote, nightmare Bridges. And the other says, George, no future Bridges. Please resign. Now, this was a physical piece of paper that was put into physical mailboxes. And this disturbed some people at the Evergreen State College, so much so that they decided to write a response letter, or a solidarity letter. This is another solidarity letter. We're going to get to there soon. It says, Dear Evergreen community, these faculty from across the college wish to make a public statement in response to flyers with the title, Let's Move Evergreen Forward, which appeared in faculty mailboxes after George Bridges' State of the College address on Monday. The flyers were anonymously distributed after office suites were locked, suggesting that the person who distributed them has keys and is an employee of the college. The flyers are hurtful and insulting to George Bridges. We do not support and we emphatically renounce, so emphatically, this inhumane, I guess it's calling him names. Is that dehumanizing him to call him names, to say you need to resign, you're a nightmare? But they emphatically state that this is inhumane and cowardly way of criticizing the president's leadership. While we may not all agree with everything that George may say and do, we respect the responsibility with which he is entrusted, and we wish to encourage direct, humane engagement when there are disagreements among us. If you respect the responsibility with which he is entrusted, would you not be critical of his irresponsibility in enacting his responsibilities? Would that not go hand in hand? Public shaming and insults leveled on anyone at the college hurt our community as a whole. This is especially damaging now when we are tasked to work together closely and with a sense of common purpose. That's interesting. Does everybody have the same purpose? Is everybody in the same boat? I guess if it's to save the college, maybe that's one thing. Maybe if some people think that the college should turn into a social justice university, and other people think that it should be a liberal arts college in a classical sense, where people go and learn how to communicate and learn how to think and learn how to do, engage with the world scientifically, empirically, and with a certain level of nuance. Maybe those two things are at odds, and maybe there isn't so much a common purpose. For the good of Evergreen's future. We believe that George has that good at heart. I don't think so. I really don't. And we appreciate his efforts on our behalf. We look forward to working with him in the future. This sounds like a bunch of brown-nosers. George, look, we're standing up for you. Don't fire us while everybody else is getting on the chopping block. We're with you. We're with you. This is a panic mode, isn't it? We invite other faculty and staff to add their names to the signatories below. Now, I looked through these signatories below, and I saw some what I would call symmetries between this little list and another letter that was released on June 2nd of 2017 following the protests, which said, in solidarity with students, we call for the Evergreen administration to, yada, 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 demonstrate accountability by pursuing a disciplinary investigation against Brett Weinstein. According to guidelines in the social contract and faculty handbook, Weinstein has endangered faculty, staff, and students, making them targets of white supremacist backlash by promulgating misinformation in public emails, on national television, in news outlets, and on social media. Now, basically what they just did in this document, released on June 2nd, and check out my full reading of this document. I had a lot of fun doing it. In this document, they basically call Brett Weinstein a liar. And this document was not just a piece of paper distributed into the physical mailboxes of faculty. No, this letter was distributed across the internet. It was specifically said that this is written with the expectation that it is a public document. So they hung one of their own out to dry, Brett Weinstein, but now they're turning around and trying to protect George Bridges. I would call that hypocrisy. I would call that only defending people who have your interests at heart, which is one of the reasons why Brett Weinstein felt he had to go and speak to a forum that would actually pay attention to him, because he was systematically discriminated against on campus, and that is why he sued. He didn't sue because the students did anything. He sued because of the climate of his work environment. He sued because of the way that his colleagues and then his bosses were treating him, and Heather as well. And you see a lot of names doing this, a lot of names on that, over and over and over again. So I just think that's interesting. So to wrap up, George Bridges, Charlie Brown, Machiavelli, and faculty of Evergreen. Not all the faculty, because I'm in contact with a lot of faculty that are fed the F up with the baloney here. I don't just get these documents from people who don't care about what's going on. I get these documents from people who care about the college, and I care about the college. I care about the possibility of its very unique system of learning for older students, for self-directed students, for people who have the ability and the need to work independently with other people, together alone. It's my kind of thing, together alone. So I'll leave you with the question. George Bridges, Charlie Brown, Machiavelli. Good night.